Mark Carney. Now, I have his book, and I've been reading his book, and it's right away, like as soon as you get into it, you start to see who this guy is. I mean, he's telling you right from the start. The book is from I think 2021. It's got a new forward from 2022, and you really do see what he is. I mean, when I say technocrat, globalist, central banker, I mean that's what he is. He's kind of the avatar for that. So, here he is telling CTV a few days ago he plans a brand new carbon tax on steelmakers and all other industries at the same time as President Trump tariffs our steel. Yes, while Trump is rolling out the red carpet for every company in the world apparently to go to the states for incentives, for preferential tax rates, all of that stuff seems to be a terrible idea, and you don't need a PhD in economics to figure out what's going to happen. But let's take a look at his book. It's called Value, and then in brackets an S. So value. So value is in just money, value of money, and then values is in your values as a society, by which he really means his values. Really. It says this book ends with humility, so it should start. So humility, he says. I wrote values because I believed even before COVID struck that we needed radical changes to build a better world for all. Humility. I think we need radical changes to build a better world for all. Humility. Radical changes to build a better world for all. And Carney's going to do it because he's so humble. We are far from perfectly rational, he tells us here. The second set of risks derives from our human nature. We are far from perfectly rational. Well, we've seen, we've seen attempts to create a perfectly rational society in the 20th century. Didn't turn out so good. Didn't turn out so good, right? Ideologies in the 20th century, I wanted like the new man, right? In a perfectly rational society, and that only got 100 million people killed needlessly, right? Whether starved to death or intentionally starved to death, accidental famines from terrible management, or just executing people or working them to death. So when I see somebody who wants a perfectly rational society, I kind of feel like we've been there, done that, and it was really bad. And what does that mean? So we tend to support past decisions even when new information suggests they are wrong. Well, we'll get that to in a second. But with this perfectly rational world, they don't really trust you to be rational. That's the problem, right? What they really mean is that, the masses, can't be relied on to be rational, and technocratic dictators have to make the decisions, like him, for instance. That's what he means, because he's perfectly rational. You're not. So what it really means is central planning, right? He's going to make all the decisions, or people like him, for the common good, for the collective, however you want to think about it. This means central planning, right? Instead of what a healthy society has, what we've learned what a healthy society is, or a society that maximizes human well-being has like this patchwork of consequential knowledge that's what actually makes a successful civilization, not central planning, not centralization, right? That it ends up leading to horrible decisions by people who don't know what they're doing, who have far too much power. And history is not confused about this, right? So he's talking about the investment needed to transition to a sustainable future, as he sees it. The scale of that investment is enormous, an estimated $2 trillion of new capital spending in Canada alone. Done properly, it can create high-quality, long-term jobs and speed up our rate of growth while building a better future for everyone. I don't believe him. Canada is well-positioned to move quickly to a zero-carbon electricity grid and electrify as much of our transportation and industrial processes as possible. Are we really? Nobody actually is. Germany has jacked up its coal usage because they don't have the cheap LNG from Russia anymore. Canada isn't really well positioned to do that, especially with Canadian winters. This is a fantasy. Accelerate our production and adoption of electric vehicles. It's always the same shit. Transform the energy efficiency of our homes and offices. Channel the same determination of engineers, entrepreneurs, and governments that I saw when I was growing up in Alberta to turn hydrogen which is also a pipe dream, and carbon capture from concepts into commercial realities. But what happens when the economy collapses in the meantime and there's no money to do any of that? You see the problem here? Most fundamentally, we can bring everyone along by creating the jobs of the present and future, particularly in the regions of the country, like my home province of Alberta, that will face the largest adjustment and could seize the greatest opportunity. How? How seize the greatest opportunity? The largest adjustment, he means the greatest poverty. That's what he means there, because energy is Alberta. In fact, it's so much Alberta that they have to give money to the rest of the country so it can keep running. All that's going to go away. For what? For what? What are they going to make solar panels in Alberta? None of this makes, this is all just a pipe dream. All of this requires central planning as well. Centralization. All of this requires that decision making be taken from that, patchwork quilt of consequential knowledge across the country and given to a small group of people like Mark Carney. By the way, let's go back. We tend to support past decisions even when new information suggests they are wrong. He's really talking about you, about the people who don't agree with him, but tend to support past decisions even when new information suggests they are wrong. Well, banks quit Carney's net zero alliance. Giving up net zero ideology should be next. Yes, he's UN financial climate envoy, climate finance envoy, whatever it is. He's got his net zero thing where he convinced Canadian banks to divest themselves of Canadian energy. And now the banks have all dropped it because it's insane and it doesn't work. And it's just a bad idea. I don't see Carney. I haven't heard Carney admitting when new information suggests that he's wrong. He's still full bore ahead on all this stuff. Yet he doesn't seem to admit that maybe he's made some mistakes here. Everything seems to be just fine. His plans, his grand scheme for Canada and the world seems to be unchanged. His plan to turn Canada into this sandbox to explore his vision, his vision of the green future. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. Please like, share, and subscribe. Subscribing really helps me out. I thank you for that. I will see you next time.